Hello, I'm Tracy Schlesinger. I'm a shamanic practitioner and I'm here to talk to you about shamanic healing. So in shamanic healing, we are helping to heal the spiritual aspects of illness. And I'll be explaining to you what the spiritual aspects of illness are from a shamanic perspective. There's four main ways that people experience illness from a shamanic perspective. One of them is soul loss. Another one is spiritual intrusions. The third is misplaced energy. And the fourth is power loss. And when you're doing shamanic healing with a shamanic healing practitioner, the shamanic healing practitioner is working with their spirit guides. So not only do you have this practitioner, you also have their whole posse of spirit guides. And we really work together as a team. And additionally, your own spirit guides also can be there supporting you. So there's you, because you're part of the deal, there's your practitioner, and there's all of your spirit guides and ancestors. And before we even get started with doing shamanic healing, it's important to qualify what kind of guides we are working with. So when you're working with a shamanic practitioner, they already know the guides that they're working with. They have these guides that they've been in relationship with for a long time. And you also have your guides, but we still want to specify. When I'm starting out a session with a client, I always say, I'm calling in loving, healing, kind, benevolent, helpful spirit guides and ancestors. Only those energies that are here for your highest good and for the highest good of all may be with us and may be present. And we are in a field of love and light, connected to the core of the earth and to the heavens. We are protected and safe in this field of love and light to be open, to release, and to receive. And so it's really important that we set those boundaries and that we make it very explicit what we're willing to do, who we're willing to work with, what our intentions are. So when we start a session, we also start with our intentions for the session. And I find this to be really important as well. I recommend people to be working with intentions that say what they're wanting to manifest or how they're wanting to feel, what they're praying for, exactly what they're truly wanting, rather than saying what they're wanting to be absent from or what they're not wanting. So for example, if somebody is feeling like they're feeling stuck, they're feeling like they just can't quite get to the point where they see themselves. They feel like they see this potential for themselves, but they're just not quite getting there. And there's various issues with their life, with their work, or with their partners. It's easy to just say, I want all of that stuff to be out of my life. I don't want to feel stuck any longer. I don't want to feel in conflict any longer. I want to be in a job that makes me feel energized rather than depleted. But what's actually more of a stronger prayer, it's stronger, it's more direct, it's more clear, is to say exactly what you're wanting. So I want to feel really empowered in my life. I want to feel really clear on my path. I want to feel happy. I want to feel good in my skin. That's saying exactly what we want rather than saying what we don't want. And that kind of message is important to start off your intention of your healing session with. So I'd like to talk specifically about each of these four components of shamanic healing. So soul loss. We can lose a part of ourself as a coping mechanism after a traumatic experience. It's not lost in a permanent sense. That word loss sometimes catches people. It's more like disassociated. So the part of ourself, it's not lost as in gone forever. It's lost as in not here with the greater part of our soul essence right now. So we are essence. And we may be filled with our essence 100%, or we may be filled with our essence 80%. We're at least filled with our essence 50% to be awake and alert. When people are in a coma, it's when 50% or more of their essence is no longer here right now. And to die and cross over, our essence leaves completely. So soul loss is when part of our essence is no longer here with our greater essence. And that happens because in the moment of a trauma, and the trauma could be a serious trauma like abuse, verbal or sexual or emotional abuse. It can be an accident, like a serious accident, a car accident or some sort of harm to yourself, a sport accident. It can also be a surgery. Surgeries are very scary and you're very vulnerable. But it also can be stuff that doesn't seem like it's quite as impacting. For people that are more sensitive, it can be something, it can be just experiencing a long time of stress or a long time of pain where you get to a point, like a breaking point, when there's just too much there for too long, and a part of you just decides, I don't really want to continue to be here to experience this. And that part of you exits. And so there's that part of you is no longer there experiencing it. But as you move forward, then you're not full of your own essence. And so it actually makes you vulnerable for other things to happen in the future. So when we're working with clients and we're working with our spirit guides, I have a spirit guide, and shamanic practitioners who do this kind of work have spirit guides that will help to do a soul retrieval. And so in a soul retrieval, we are shown where those soul parts are in the past. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's multiple. And we go and communicate with the soul parts, and we find out what happened and what do you need and how can we support you to heal, and would you like to come back? And when we're shown that they're there, they almost always want to come back. And so before they come back, we do support and we do healing. And when they come back and they reintegrate with the greater essence that they're from, they bring gifts. They've learned, they've healed. And so when somebody has a soul retrieval, they are fuller with their essence. And when you're fuller with your essence, you're protected and you're able to be yourself. You're able to show up in your fullness, in your strength, in your power. And when you have that, you're also healthier physically and emotionally. When people have experienced soul loss, they often feel like they're not fully there. People may say or feel like, ever since such and such event happened, I haven't been the same. I just heard a story about a woman who had a really traumatic abortion. And ever since then, she felt like she was not the same. And that can happen from all sorts of various events, sometimes more traumatic, sometimes less traumatic. People often who are just getting sick a lot, whether it's emotionally or physically, and just can't quite figure out why. They may have tried approaches with regular medicine, Western medicine, allopathic medicine. It's just not working. This could be why. There could be a spiritual aspect of the illness that hasn't yet been addressed. So that's pretty good for soul loss. Now for power loss, we have power in ourselves, how we believe in ourselves, and our relationship with our support, our spirit guides, our helping spirits, our power animals. If we are not receiving that support, if we are not engaging and we're not listening and we're not accepting that support, our guides can just feel like, okay, I'm not needed here. Just like in any relationship, a relationship with your friends, with your family, if you're not showing up and you're not available, then they may feel slighted. They may feel like I'm not needed here, and they may stop calling on you. And so during a shamanic healing session, the spirit guides may show that there is a power animal that's ready to be reconnected. The reason why they may show up, the power animal may show up to be reconnected, or a spirit guide, it doesn't actually have to just be an animal. It could be any type of form. Spirit guides come in all sorts of different forms. But when you come in for a session, you are making a statement out to your guides and to the universe that you are here and available, and that you want to be full. You want to be full of your essence, full of your power. And so if that did happen with one of your spirit guides, they can come back. And then when they come back, they'll often tell the practitioner why they left and what kind of gifts that they have for you. Also, a spiritual intrusion, that is when a life form is in someone else's body. So a spiritual intrusion is an entity. Entities are spirits that once were in a body, and the body had a physical death, And after that point, the entity should have crossed over, but instead the entity stayed. And that can happen if the entity experienced their own traumatic death and they were stunned, or if they experienced a death and they feel like they were wronged, such as like in a case of a murder. And an entity could be either confused or angry and not cross over for those reasons. Sometimes they're not actually aware, and sometimes they are aware, they're just not letting go. And so when we see that an entity is present in someone else during a shamanic healing, we want to be compassionate and loving toward that presence. And we actually now have another client, because they're a soul too, and they need spiritual and soul work, which is what shamanic healing is providing. So we don't give it too much energy. It's definitely more about the client that physically came in. But we do want to be compassionate and loving and help that essence, that spiritual intrusion, we want to help that essence to exit. So we will help that client, help that essence to leave the client and then to cross over. Sometimes the essence doesn't want to cross over, and we can't force it. This is not a healing that's by force, but we do always remove it from the client, because what it does to the client is it drains their energy. The client already has their life force that's for their soul. And now that there's another presence inside, it can really drain the energy. So the final way that we can have illness from a shamanic perspective is with misplaced energy. And misplaced energy is when there is energy inside of us that's blocking us. And so energy inside of us that's blocking us, it can actually be something that we've created on our own from our own thoughts. When we have a lot of doubting thoughts and lower frequency thoughts, I'm not good enough, or they're better than me, or I'm not going to make it, so why even try, or I'm so this, or I'm so that, and it's really critical type of self-talk. Those are toxic thoughts. And those kinds of toxic thoughts can create toxic effects of toxic energy and energy blockages in our body. And instead of our energy flowing the way it should, it can get stuck, and it can create more of like a painful blockage inside, whether it's emotionally painful or whether it's causing physical pain. And spiritually, it just reduces our vibration and reduces our frequency. And so when I'm talking about your frequency being reduced or your vibration being reduced, what I'm saying, what I mean by that is, when your frequency or your vibration's high, you feel lighter, you feel more joyful, you feel happier, you're going to smile more, you're going to feel more free, you're going to feel just more engaged and connected to life, because you're more connected and engaged with yourself. When your frequency and your vibration are lower, you're going to be a little mopey, or your body language is going to show it. You're probably not going to have such an open posture. You're going to be more hung down. You might have more pain. You might feel more negative. You might feel like people aren't responding to you as well, or you don't have the confidence to reach out and say hello to somebody. So our energy and our vibration really, really affects us inside and outside. So when we have misplaced energy, we want to extract it. Misplaced energy also can come from how other people are treating us. So when we are around people who are critical and negative toward us or are hurting us, it is our responsibility to take care of ourselves. So we want to leave those people, leave those situations, or let them know that's not okay. But when it happens, it can also create energy inside of us that then can just stay. And there's a word for this called samskaras. It's a Sanskrit word, and it means impression. And so ideally, we're going to be flowing with life. Things come in, good and bad. We don't grasp or suppress or deny or push back and resist what's coming in. It just flows in and out. But when we do that, that can create these little thorns in our body. There's an awesome book that talks all about this called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, one of my absolute favorite books that I've ever read. And it talks all about samskaras and gives great practices for this. Well, they're also misplaced energy. They also can be extracted with shamanic healing work. So those are the four main illnesses from a shamanic perspective. But I also want to talk about other things that can happen in a shamanic healing session that aren't defined by these main four things. We can also have a soul remembering. And a soul remembering is really beneficial in more of like an existential way. So if you feel like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? If you feel like you need some direction, you're feeling lost, a soul remembering can really, really help, because a soul remembering is helping to connect you with what was originally really inviting you to be back in this life, to be in this reincarnation, to reincarnate into this incarnation. So we've lived many, many lives, and we're going to live many, many more. And at the beginning of each life, there's a reason why you decided to come back. And so remembering that can really provide great direction and purpose, and help you make choices that are going to support your greater soul mission. And when you're in alignment with your greater soul mission, life feels more fulfilling. Additionally, you can also receive shamanic healing from your very own spirit guides. That's why I love when people know how to journey. I love to teach people how to journey. I love seeing that initial response and connection after someone has journeyed and they're like, I met my guide and this is what they told me and it was amazing, because it's amazing. I've been doing this work for 11 years and it's still amazing. I'm still so juiced and just so in love with it. So your own guides can provide you with shamanic healing as well. And the last thing I'll say is that even with these different components, things still happen that feel kind of undefined. And so when we're doing work with clients, we don't want to be in such a box that we're thinking, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that. And we're specifically asking for all these different components, and not also just being open to the additional magic that happens in shamanic healing. Because sometimes things happen that don't quite fit into these different definitions that I just explained. And that's the beauty of this practice. It's very alive, it's dynamic, and it changes and evolves constantly, just like anything that's alive. Things that are alive are always growing and dying and growing and dying, and there can be little deaths or little changes within the greater life that we experience. And that can also happen in your shamanic healing practice. Also, hearing stories, healing stories, true life examples of how all this shows up really helps to anchor this information. So I'm going to be doing another video that's going to be shamanic healing stories, and I'll be giving examples of all of the different things that I just explained. I'll be showing how they've showed up in people's lives. If you would like more information, then you can visit my website, shamanism.thehealingcollective.us. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. And if you want to see more, then subscribe. Wishing you many blessings.